Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for joining. I'm so excited to have Laurie-Ann here. We became good friends last year, hung out in Mexico for a little bit. She's immediately after started sending me places that I should go speak on. She is a huge resource when it comes to just like where to speak, how to leverage your speaking opportunities, and just sort of how to get a bigger stage for yourself. So yeah, Laurie-Ann, really excited to have you, and I will let you take it away.
Thank you very much. And first off, everyone, I am an open book when it comes to anything about speaking. I will share with you and answer any of your questions. And thank you very much for, I did get suddenly ill and had to send Kristen a 911 message. And one of the things that I shared on social media about that is the reason why she rebooked me is because of the relationship that we already had. Speaking really is a long game, and it is built on relationships. And I say that because the places that you have spoken for, continuing those relationships, who can they refer you to? When can they bring you back? So a little bit about me. Because you're probably wondering, how did Kristen pick this woman to talk about speaking? And I am a reformed, painfully shy girl who accidentally became a professional speaker and literally could not make eye contact with people, and taught myself like how to overcome that shyness because I knew it wouldn't serve me in the long run. And then just kind of said yes to my very first speaking event before I was ready. And please learn from my mistake that first time. I spoke about something that was not my specialty. I literally spoke about websites and how your customer coming to your website, what they feel, what they're experiencing, so that everybody as a company owner could be like reevaluating, like, what does my website look like? I mean, this is like more than 20 years ago. And the funny thing is people came up to me afterwards and said, so do you have a website? How do you work with people? And I was just like, huh? I didn't even know that I could share that information. So from there, I ended up writing books. I ended up in the leadership and corporate engagement industry based on my healthcare experience. And I've been able to be on stages with people like Randy Gage, he's the prosperity guy. Darren LaCroix, he's the 2012 #1 public speaker in the world. I've been able to meet like James Wedmore and Amy Porterfield. And the guy that made me feel like a rock star, even though he was the star of the show, was Bobby Orr. I spoke someplace where I was an MC, and literally he just made me feel like I was the #1 speaker. And I was like, no, that room full of people was there to see him. Although I was able to slip in some skate and hockey jokes as I was speaking, so that I was actually just kind of like tying the whole event together. So one of the best things that I want you to understand is, why would you use speaking? So I'm curious, and I don't even know, because I've not used this platform really very much, Kristen, if there's a chat.
There is, yeah.
There is a chat.
Yeah, it's over on the right.
Okay, great. So if you would type in the chat, did you go to my website to check me out first? Did you go to my social media? Whether that's LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, Facebook. Did you listen to maybe some of my podcast episodes? I'm curious to what sort of, I don't want to call it homework that you did beforehand, but your audience is constantly evaluating, do I want to be in that room? So they will check you out, your social, sign up for lead magnets, listen to your podcast, go on to even maybe find your guest episodes. And because they're deciding, do I want to spend time here? Do I want to buy a ticket to this? So all of those things happen when you are that speaker. And those are little micro yeses that people have made before they're actually in the physical room or even the virtual room for you. So There are also lots of different ways that you can be speaking. So I believe that speaking needs to be redefined and stages needs to be redefined. Warren Buffett said that if you learn public speaking skills, you will increase your value by 50%. I believe, and I've seen evidence of this, that when you learn public speaking skills, you will increase your bottom line by 87%. And I think that's a little on the low side. So let me throw a few other numbers out at you, since that's not enough. Today, there were 20,000 speaking events globally that happened. Events. Now, how many of you have gone to a conference where there's been multiple breakout sessions? That is still considered one event, even if they have 5 breakout sessions. So it's not a need for 20,000 speakers. There are 20,000 events that happen today. Here in the United States, that number is about 7,500. So let's just break that down by 50 states just to get a rough idea, although it is February and nobody is going to a conference in Alaska. They are actually going to Texas, Florida, Hawaii, and California. So they're going to have a little bit more, but we're just going to divide everything by 50 states. That's 150 opportunities today. I live really close to Massachusetts. I'm on the southern border of New Hampshire. That means I have 300 opportunities. And it only takes me about an hour and a half to get to Rhode Island. So let's add another 150 right there. There is so much opportunity, but what's not included in that number, because those numbers come from MPI, Meeting Planners International. So we're talking about events, associations that are renting hotel rooms. Me speaking here, doesn't count with MPI's number, but this is a form of speaking. Me being a guest on somebody's podcast, or you coming onto my podcast. I have a podcast, I have 2 episodes a week. That's another form of speaking. You going onto IG stories and sharing some sort of a tip or creating videos. There are so many different forms of speaking and so many different types of stages. And I would love for you to find a stage and decide what your favorite speaking, I'll call it strategy or model, that you're going to use. For me, my favorite is my podcast. And second is coming into private communities like Kristen has here and being able to share my expertise with all of you so that I hopefully am inspiring you to start reaching out to these different organizations. So back to some more numbers. There are 225,000 professional trade and association groups here in the United States. 225,000. There is an association for everything. Remember the last time you went to the circus or the fair, and there's that person who is blowing up those long, thin balloons, and then they twist and turn, they turn them into some cute little animal and hand it to some kid? Yeah, there's an association for that. Literally everything. I have a client, and he speaks for real estate. So I have a book that's no longer in print. And so what I decided to do is I opened it up to real estate. So that's the category. I wanted to see all the different associations that fell under real estate. 134 different associations. So I told him, I said, if you just spoke like once a week to one of them, you literally every 3 years could repeat the cycle. Now that was just real estate. There's also 2 other categories that are closely related to real estate investing, real estate management. I didn't even include those. So that's how much opportunity is out there. So it's really a matter of you finding, where are my people? And I'm going to use the analogy because, Bree, you were sharing with me, you're really about women's health. And women are everywhere, and they're in all different associations, and they're on all different podcasts. There's so much opportunity for you. But I'm going to encourage you and everybody who's listening, that even if you have a topic, like Kristen, yours is marketing. I mean, there's so many different people and associations that you can be talking to. I want you to pick an industry, which is like a mountain. I want you to climb one, maybe two mountains at a time, but I don't want you climbing five, because you're going to start up, you got to come back down. You got to go back up to the other one, come back down. The mountain is just the analogy. So what happens when you choose an industry? You will finally get to the top of that industry, the top of that mountain. And other people that are on the top of other mountains, that's how they will see and hear about you. So pick an industry. Just decide, like, my people are like, these are the people that I enjoy spending time with. You know, so maybe you might have to date a few industries first before you choose one, but find your people so that you really get to know those people and you get really well known in that industry. Because here's what I want you to do. I also want you to be spectacular on the in-person, virtual, or podcast stage. Whatever your stage is, I want you to be spectacular. Because if you have the 3 C's, which is a compelling, captivating, and most importantly, converting presentation, your audience will have the 3 R's, which means that they will be raving about you, remembering you, and referring you. We want people to refer you. So how did I come from that professional speaking world into this online world? Does anybody here live in the Fort Lauderdale area? There was an airport incident when I was hopping on and off airplanes, speaking about leadership and corporate engagement with a lot of private clients. Literally got home, washed my clothes, throw them back in the suitcase, leave to go the next day to my next destination. Well, here in the United States, we're allowed to travel with our rifle, gun, and baggage claim is out of TSA's jurisdiction. And literally, a gentleman was traveling, had the right paperwork to travel with his rifle, picked up his suitcase, went into the men's room, put his semi-automatic rifle together, and came out shooting. And the FAA, as maybe you know or don't know, really rules the world. So every plane came to land at the nearest airport. He only killed 2 people, thank goodness. But it made such an impact on me. I literally was like, universe, I need a different business model. And that was all that I said. And 2 weeks later, I got a text message from a friend who'd been in my audience a number of times saying, Laurie-Ann, do you write speeches for people? I didn't. But because she was somebody that I knew, I decided to meet with her. Let's just meet for coffee, see if I can help her. And she had a side hustle for 5 years, was also working as in a government job. And so she only had like 3 years left to finish. And if you know anything about government jobs, at 3 years, you will stand on your head for the remainder of that time. And so with her side hustle as a stylist, she'd been successfully losing money for 5 years. Husband said, you can't keep doing this when you retire. So that's what made her turn to me. And I was like, oh, Sharon, I'll teach you how to get booked. I'll teach you how to write a 3 C's presentation, and then I'll teach you how to leverage it at the end. And after her first presentation to a tiny audience of 15 people, she got referred to 2 other places to speak, and she walked away with 3 full paying clients. And that was a home run because it completely changed her business model. And like most of us entrepreneurs, it was like, oh, I wonder if anybody else wants to know what I know. So most of my pivots have been opportunities that have come to me. And so I just kind of fell in love with entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, and service providers, because there is so much opportunity that's out there for you to be speaking that most people are overlooking. To be able to get in front of your audience, Bree, you mentioned, like social media can be just like, it's such a time suck. And it is. But imagine speaking to a room full of your ideal clients, people who already said yes to spending time, buying a ticket, and spending money can also be a membership fee or being in a mastermind. They're saying yes to being there, yes to the problem that you solve. They either have the problem or they're predicting that they're going to have the problem, or it's a topic that they're very interested in. So speaking really is a very efficient form of marketing, in my opinion. I believe that speaking is the fastest way to grow your business. But how do you get started? I mean, 20,000. Here's a couple of things that I think you should do. One is start with your warm market. If you're new in business, this might mean just reconnecting with people from your past, and just having these connection calls. You want to learn about, hey, it would sound something like this, whether I sent an email or I called Kristen because I just happened to have her phone number and I'm leaving a voice message. Kristen, oh my God, I can't believe it's been 3 years since you and I spoke. It's like I blinked and 3 years just went by in a flash. So much has changed in my world, and I'm sure that so much has changed in your world. I would love to reconnect with you. Send me your calendar link, and I'll book something over the next couple of weeks. Or you could always offer to leave your calendar link. It's very non-confrontational. It's not very demanding. It's just, hey, let's connect. Now, I'm going to tell you, like, using this strategy, a lot of my private clients have gotten rebooked. So all those places that you have spoken for in the past, all those people that you do know, because you never know who you may think, this is somebody that I worked with 10, 15 years ago. You know, go over to your LinkedIn, see what they're doing these days, reconnect with them. You enjoyed, them at some point. You had a relationship. And just being able to share, what are you doing? Here's what I'm doing. Being able to share with people that I am now in the XYZ industry and I speak on X, Y, and Z. Because you just never know, like they might know, or they might even be a volunteer on a committee, either currently or maybe in the very near future, where they're actually on the committee that is putting together a conference or an event or a meeting. And you might be perfect for. So having these reconnection calls, because now you're just letting your warm market know that you're available to speak. And then from there, after you speak, so like I already told Kristen this, so I'll let you guys in on a little secret. So what I said to Kristen before the event is, at the end of this, I'll ask you for a couple of things. One of them is a testimonial. And the other is for you to refer me to somebody else that you know, like one or two people that you know that have groups that would benefit from learning about speaking. It's an easy ask. And then to be outstanding on the stage. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But let me just take a pause here for a moment. What questions do you have with what I've just shared with you so far? Feel free just to unmute and ask away.
Kristen will tell you I always have questions. But I guess what I'm curious of is you say start with your warm market, just reconnecting, and then at the end of the speaking thing, these are the things that you do. But I seem to get lost in what happens in the middle there. Like I'm very good at connecting. I'm good at making friends. I enjoy that piece. And then it's the ask. It's the how do you bring that up and say, especially if it's somebody, especially when you're talking more market, it's generally for me people that I'm friends with. And then it feels sort of transactional, I guess. And it's probably a mindset issue that I'm having. But I'm just curious, like, how do you go about taking that next step?
Okay. So first off, what I'm hearing is something that I used to experience, and it's really in the energy. You're going down the road, you're spending time with this person, you're getting to know them, and now you're going to make the ask and tell them that you're a speaker, and you feel like you're making a hard right turn, and you're getting back up to speed, and you're stumbling over your own feet. This was my experience. We make them like they're almost two different things. The conversation to connect, and then the ask. What if we put them together? It's just this straight line so that the energy is the same. You can ask them, so what's new in your world? How can I help you? And then you're just going to share, and this is what I'm doing. I'm so excited to be talking about women's health and speaking about X, Y, and Z, whatever your 3 different topic ideas are. Now, you're not asking them to hire you. You don't even know if they're in a position that they could hire you, they could refer you. We're just letting people know. And then if you have spoken for anybody in the past, and Bree, like if you already shared with me that you enjoy speaking, if you spoke on something, even a completely different topic 10 years ago, well, you're just reconnecting with people and like, hey, remember those days when I used to speak on emotional intelligence? Well, this is what happened to me as I approached. I'm so guessing. This is what happened to me as soon as I hit the age of like 45. My hormones were crazy. I dove into this. And now I am helping women understand their hormones and peri and menopause. I'm just making all this stuff up. I'm not even sure that that's exactly what you do, but
not at all, but it works. But I understand what you're going with.
Yeah. Like you're not asking them to hire you. You're just letting them know that this is what I do. And this does a couple of things. It helps you own that you're a speaker. You're telling people that you speak because you're going to put speaker in your bio, by the way. And you're talking about it. You're just letting people know. Then you move on to the next person. So I call like these connection calls is kind of like a daily vitamin. The reason why a daily vitamin works is because you take them every single day. So I would love it if you would just make some sort of a spreadsheet. Here are all the different people that I'm going to reach out to over the next couple of months. And every day you just email or phone somebody and just have a system. If I don't hear from them after the email, a week later, I'm going to call them because I happen to have their number. Or it was really easy to find on LinkedIn. And I'll make the phone call. See what happens. That's your warm market. Yeah, again, we're not asking them to hire us. But if you have spoken for somebody, like I can't believe, like let's just pretend that it's 2027. I would say to Kristen, I can't believe it's been 2 years since I spoke to your marketing bar group. We should talk, and as long as her and I still have the relationship, I could say to her, that like I had so much fun speaking for your group. I've got this new talk. Maybe you would like to consider like putting me on the 2027, schedule. And Kristen, would you be offended if I did that in a couple of years? Finding a good speaker is hard. It's a lot of work. And Kristen had seen me speak before, but if this was like a completely cold new relationship, she'd have been like, oh my God, yeah, you knocked it out of the park 2 years ago. Of course I'm going to have you back. Just assume the sale. Does that help you?
It does. Yes, thank you.
Good. Joanna, did you have a question?
So I do have a question, and I have sort of an observation as well, which is, I think, Bree, you said something that you, if I may, you underestimate because it's so natural for you. You said like the social piece, the connecting piece is really easy. The asking for the sale is hard. I hate the social piece. I know that makes me sound like a psychopath. I have a really low social battery. It uses up all of my people energy to have a, hey, how are you? I'm so glad that we still know each other conversation every day. So I tend to try and balance the genuinely, so pleased we still know each other, but also you do know me, so you know that like I'm probably reaching out for a reason. because my social energy is really low. I hate it when people tap dance around the ask because it takes all of my social energy and I am waiting for 44 minutes for the 45th minute where they're going to be like, so can you? I'm like, just make that minute 2. Don't take for granted the thing that you can do that's like a superpower for the rest of us. It's really amazing to me to be able to do that. It
Thank
seemed
you,
like
Joanne, for that.
yeah.
And I just want to piggyback on that. Like, I'm really good at connecting people. So I have no problem. Like, I will connect people together all the time. But then if it's a couple of weeks later, it's like, like I really should have like a coffee chat with that person. The fact that I've made a connection, like I've already done something for them and I didn't expect anything in return. But again, it's just a daily vitamin. You're going to get better at it. So I would say if this feels uncomfortable, pick the people that are going to be like a warm up. These are people that I know that if I send them an email, they will be like, yes, I would love to talk to you, Bree. Or Amy or Joanne. They're
So
just like, it's going to be an easy yes.
So my question, Laurie-Ann, is for those of us who use speaking as a land and expand opportunity. So my goal in speaking is actually to sell consulting and training services, not to sell more speaking gigs.
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about techniques around that, please.
Absolutely. And being able to say things throughout your presentation that lets your audience know that you are more than just this speech.
Yeah.
I've already been doing it with you. Mostly when I've said my private clients, my podcast. So I actually do have, this isn't the gift that I was going to give you, but if you go to speakandstandout.com/magic, it is 17 different phrases to use throughout your speech, a media interview, a podcast interview, a guesting opportunity, or even in a situation like this, so that what's happening is you want to tell your audience, because I want you to feel, I'll just use me as an example, I want you to be like, oh, she's got another talk. Oh, she works with private clients. Oh, she's got a podcast. Oh, she's got this group program. Like I just keep seeding in. And that's what makes your audience realize that there are ways to work with you. But also the person who booked you, they're also thinking, I didn't know that she had a talk on catchphrases, which is part of my in-demand signature speech methodology. And I could come back and help you guys do something like that. So those are things that you start to do. And then also, Joanne, we are getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but also just having a process that at the end, kind of like what I shared, but like a few weeks ago, I told Kristen, like, this is what I'm going to ask of you. I'm coming into your group. Like you never speak for free, but it's okay to speak for no fee. That's what I tell all of my clients and students. There is always some sort of an exchange of value, whether it's testimonials, it's referrals, it's doing a shout out on social media, something.
Yeah. Thank you.
And being able to like sell and pitch from the stage without sounding salesy, because there are so many meeting planners, those 20,000, a lot of times they will say to you, you can't pitch from the stage. Well, when you start using these little magical phrases, you're not really pitching. It's just very conversational. And nobody will really realize what you're doing. Like I do this all the time. And I've had people get on sales calls with me saying, I don't know what you did up there, but I'm on a call with you and I don't have money to hire you. And then he ended up signing up for one of my programs. He was like, I want to know how to do that. And it's just very conversational. What you're doing is, I call it like subconscious seeding sales, because it's pulling forth the right people. People that are in your audience aren't going to say, oh, she's a private coach. She's trying to sell her coaching services to me. No, they're not going to. They're just going to be like, oh, you can work with her one-on-one. I bet I could have a speech done in no time if I hired her. So selling from the stage is also that, just like we were talking earlier with Bree, is you've got to just look at it as you are driving down the same road. There is no hard right turn where you had to slow down at the stop sign, build your speed back up. It's just the same street. Very conversational, and it's all about your energy that you show up with. We've all got some bad memories of either speaking or, whether you were on a stage or maybe just in a small conversation. So many things happened to us when we were little. You might have been told, shush, shush, be quiet. Nobody wants to hear from you, like when you were really young. And it's funny how that still impacts us, especially when we're on a stage. I can honestly tell you that my speaking has drastically improved in the past, I want to say 6 years. And I've got 25 years of experience, but it is some very personal, deep work that I've done. And I'll share with you, like, the foundation of it was really self-love. And I've had other speakers come up to me, professional speakers who know me from way back when, have said to me, like, look, Laurie, like, you've gotten really good, but it's my energy that I show up with. What's the energy that you want your audience? This is such an advanced tip. What is the energy that you want your audience to feel when you're telling this tip, when you're telling this story? Because it won't be the same energy for everything that you're sharing. And it shouldn't be, because I want you to take your audience on an experience. So there are highs and there are lows. You're speaking fast, you're speaking slow. Like, there's so much to this. It literally is like verbal art. When you craft a speech, it is verbal art. You can probably tell that I love what I do, right? I get really into this. Okay, so let's talk about, you already have a speech. Let's just say, like, somebody says that you have a connection call. I'm on a committee and we're looking for speakers on XYZ. Let me, like, send over some information. I'll submit it at the next meeting. And then they say yes to you. And now you're going to be like, oh shit, now what do I do? So I'm going to tell you, there are different parts of a speech, and it is way more than just a beginning, a middle, and an end. We can still break it up into a beginning, a middle, and an end. But your beginning has 2 sections. There's your opening. You have to give people a reason to put their phones down, to put it in their bag, and then not pay attention to it, not wishing it would go off, and get them to lean into you. So that can be with, like, a startling statistic, numbers, a funny story, an antidote, a metaphor maybe. I used, Warren Buffett said, learn public speaking, and you'll increase your value by 50%. Now, here's a little note that if you use somebody else's quote, make sure you turn it around and position yourself as the expert, which is why I said, but I believe that if you learn public speaking skills, you will increase your bottom line by 87%. So I turned it around. He said this. Everybody knows who Warren Buffett is, but I still want you to be positioned as the expert. If you talk about a case study or even some research that's been done in your industry, make sure you say, and what this means is, so that you're not just quoting research, you are then using your thought leadership and interpreting that for this audience. Okay, so that's your beginning. Then what happens to your audience once they've leaned in, then what they start to do is they start to cross their arms and they lean back. And they're thinking, yeah, but why should I listen to you? And this is what I call your authority section. You need to explain to people. And there's a nice little segue. Sometimes I say, if we've never met before, I'm a reformed painfully shy girl, and you already heard it. I gave you that I have 25 years of experience in doing this. So now you have a reason, just like, oh, she actually probably does know what you're talking about. So your authority section is a very conversational bio. It's not like you're reading a boring resume. We don't want to bore the audience like in the first few minutes, okay? And then you want to give them really good value. So now we're in the meat of the presentation. And this is where you have, in a typical hour, you would have 3 points that you can share with your audience. 3 points, 3 tips, however you want to look at it. But this is where you become a lawyer. For each of your points, you now have to defend it. It's like you're in court. You're a trial lawyer. So think of one of those 3-legged tables. That's your point that you're sharing. And then 3 pieces of information, those are the legs. And that's how that table stands, because you've told a story, a statistic, a case study, support for your tip. And you just say it in such a nice, eloquent way. And then at the very end, I would then use like your catchphrase or remind them like, and that's why speaking's the fastest way to grow your business. That's why speaking's the fastest way to like grow your email list. You're sort of reinforcing that point or using your catchphrase. And then you would move on to the next one. I got one more for you. So that's the meat of your sandwich speech, so to speak. And this is why people came to hear you speak. They didn't come for a pitch fest, an infomercial. So make sure that you give your audience really good value and stuff that they can use right away. I've always had this belief, and it's always been my goal, that when I am crafting a presentation, that my audience has to walk out of the room and they can use something right away. They can start implementing. I don't want it to take forever for people to put all of this stuff together and then maybe in a month they've got it, because guess what? They won't do it. So keep your tips simple. Now you're probably thinking, but how do I pick those 3 things? I don't know if you go on a vacation and pack like I do, but whenever I'm going on vacation and I know that I've got the big suitcase, I throw everything on the bed that I want to wear for this particular vacation and situations that I might, like dinner and dancing or the education portion or sitting by the pool. Everything goes on the bed. So that's what I want you to do. I just brain dump. What are all the things that I want to share in this presentation? Remember, you're writing a presentation that you're going to use over and over again. But then I'm going to tell you, oh, sorry, Amy, you can't bring that big suitcase. You have to put everything in a carry-on. So now you're just like, okay. So now you're down to like maybe 7 outfits if you pack right, and like mix and mingle. But then I come back to you and I say, sorry, Amy, we're traveling on Spirit and you can only take a backpack. So now you got that. That's where you come up with, you literally just, I got this many ideas. And this is exactly what I do when I'm writing a new speech. I take sticky notes and I put them all on the wall, all the different stories, all the different tips that I want to share in this particular presentation. And then I start moving them around, and some things make the cut and a lot of things don't. And one of the things that you would have done in the beginning of writing this speech is you would have set your goals. I call this the foundation before we start writing. And the foundation, those goals are, what do you want the gift to be for the audience? When you are done speaking, what is the gift that you want them to have, to walk away with? Literally write that down so that you know exactly the destination that your speech is going to be headed in. And then, what's your goal as a speaker? They are two different goals. I want you to make sure that the audience gets what they need. And I certainly want to make sure that you get your goal. You get what you need when you're speaking. Whether that's growing your email list, that is maybe some sales calls, getting people to join a program, listen to your podcast. There's so many different things. So that as you're writing this and putting your points together, is this in alignment with the goals that I set for this program, for this speech? You're constantly filtering. That's why I say, like, you are crafting verbal art. There is a lot to it, but once you've done all the work, you get to use this speech again and again and again. Amy, what's your favorite movie? Or Kristen, what's your favorite movie?
That's a hard one, but I would have to say if there's one that I've watched 100 million times,
Yes.
it's probably Titanic.
Titanic, and you know the ending, but you still watch it anyways, right? Same thing with your signature speech. You're going to get really good at giving and delivering the same speech again and again and again. And then what happens when you start getting known for certain stories is you're going to walk into a conference hall and somebody's going to come up to you and say, "Are you Laurie-Ann? Are you telling that jackknife story?" Like, they already know the story that you're going to tell. And I'm like, "Yep, I am." Fantastic. I love that story. They want to hear it again. So if they've been in your audience before, they're going to be like nudging the people that are next to them. This is a really good story. Pay attention. So I share that with you because I don't want you to be afraid to tell the same story, to use the same presentation, because this is how you get really, really good on stage. You already know what you're going to say. You already know all the stories and all the tips. And after you've been doing this a little while, it's going to be really easy just to drop in the association's name. Or like what I've done, like talk about the marketing bar. Talk about the relationship with the person who booked you. That becomes easier and easier as you do this a number of times. So that was the meat. So the other piece of the bread is we've got to have that call to action. And then you just kind of wrap it up in a pretty little bow. But how do you do that call to action? This is what I'll say to you. It is impossible for me to teach you everything that I know about public speaking and writing and delivering amazing presentations in under an hour. So that's why I have this for you. You know, I did share with you the magic phrases, but what I do have for you is I would encourage you to go and download my new podcast listener guide. And that's at speakandstandout.com/guide, GUIDE. And it will like break down, like if you're an experienced speaker, if you're new to speaking, it's like 10 of my most popular episodes. But did you see like just how conversational that was? I have a segue right into it. And the segue, you all have permission to borrow and steal and use this one. It is impossible for me to share X amount of years of experience with you about public speaking in however the amount of time that you're speaking. But don't worry, I got something for you. You say that again and again and again before you actually speak, it will just roll off of your tongue. And then you will be surprised. You know, keep track of this stuff, like where you speak, how many people were in the audience, and how many people signed up for your lead magnet. I mean, people that use this in-demand signature speech methodology and those different phrases will routinely like convert 60% of the audience. And 60% is pretty darn good. Try doing that over on Instagram these days, if the algorithm lets you. Okay, so I've already made you like my offer. What questions do you have? Again, I'm an open book. No questions?
So, how much work do you put into a speech before you so-called sell it? I
Oh,
hear a lot in
go
the world.
go and sell it first. Nothing will make you finish writing a speech quicker than a date on the calendar.
Okay. And then how much of it, I mean, I assume what comes after opening authority, writing it, all of that, and booking it, is practice ad nauseum. But how much of it, so I come from a speech and debate background. When I was in high school, I did speech. We had to make 8-minute speeches that was on one tiny itty bitty little note card. And so we got very good at bullet points and speaking extemporaneously. I find speaking from and memorizing a speech
Oh God, don't do that.
impossible. So how do you
Okay.
recommend bullet points? Do you recommend write it out and
Some-
practice it so that it's exactly what you want to say? Do you recommend a teleprompter? Like,
Okay. A little bit of all of the above. So if I got hired by Skillsoft to come and do some videos, and they had a studio that they had rented. I mean, I did this years ago, probably in 2018, and routinely quarterly I get a royalty check from them. And because they were renting the studio, they're just like, we'll take as many takes as you need, but we will have a teleprompter. This was the first time I ever used a teleprompter in this sort of a situation. And so I used the teleprompter because I knew it was going to make it so much quicker for us to get everything done. So in that situation, of course, these were pre-recorded videos. If you are doing your own maybe webinar and you want to write it out, but I don't always recommend, like this obviously, and I hope you felt that, I've been fully present with you, and this was not a canned speech at all. I know what I'm going to talk about because I talk about the same things whenever I come into somebody's group. There are 2 places that I would highly recommend that you memorize, and the rest of it, I would say, do bullets. Like your tips, the 3 tips that you're going to share, like have those as bullets, but what are the 3 pieces of supporting data? Have those as bullets. So the 2 sections that I would say to memorize is your beginning, your opening, and your authority section. Your authority section, by the way, you're going to use it like on podcast interviews when people say, hey, could you introduce yourself to the audience? There's so many different places that you'll be able to use that. But the reason why I say to memorize your opening and your authority section is because we all get butterflies and we get a little nervous. And then we think, oh, what are they thinking? Like now we're not being fully present. Whereas if I already know what I'm going to say, those butterflies go away and then I get into a groove. Yes, still to this day, I still get a little nervous. And the day that I stop getting nervous before I speak is the day that I'm going to get concerned. So that's the first section. And then I want you to memorize your ending. And here's why. I want you to make sure that you get your close in, that you get your call to action in, that you are the last positive thing that the audience hears.
okay.
Make sense? That means
It
you're
does.
looking up at a clock because you
Yeah.
know that in an hour presentation, your close takes you 6 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever it is, so that you can look at a clock and say, it's 10 of, I got to go into my close. So that you get your entire call to action in, so that you achieve your goal for speaking. Okay? And everything else, I have clients that love to write everything out. I do believe that the shorter your presentation, if you're speaking for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, every word really counts and is extremely powerful. So in those situations, if you can write out your speech, but again, we write or type differently than we speak. So this was something that when I used the teleprompter for Skillsoft, I wrote everything out, but then I started to say it in front of a camera at home while I was practicing, and that's when I did all the editing. So it wasn't perfect grammar, but it was the way that I would speak to somebody. Does that help you?
Well, it does. I did my first 5-day challenge a couple of years ago, and I had it all written down, and I had it on like notes in front of me on a notebook and whatnot. And I'm like, this is going to be great. And then I went to practice it, and I was like, oh, I can't see the notes. This is terrible. It's like in a couple of days, I don't know what to do. I'm going to be at the library. And I finally was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab some giant things of poster board, and I'm just going to write it out and put it on the wall so that I could read it. And I jokingly now refer to them as my teleprompters, because they're there, and it allowed me to have the bullets, have specific things that I was going to say, but also like go off on, like, if I could see people interested, I was like, okay, I need to go off and dive into this a little bit more, and tried to do it on a teleprompter one year, and the teleprompter just kept going. And I was like, I don't have a way to stop you. So I guess I'm not going to do that again. So playing with it, but yes, that makes perfect sense.
And that's where slides can come in handy also, because they'll keep you on track. A picture is worth 1,000 words. You see a picture, you know exactly what story you're going to tell or what point you're going to be sharing. But you're talking about the big giant pieces of paper, you know, you can get like whiteboard that, you know, is in a roll, and you can stick it up and stick it in your suitcase. Well, I agreed to speak for somebody, and I was going to be down in Florida at our vacation home. And there isn't the best background, but I put some boxes on top of the counter in the kitchen. And just like what you did, right in front of me, I put those whiteboards with my notes on what I wanted to share with the audience, the different stories. And I think I was helping a Toastmasters group, you know, grow their club. So it was all about, like, you know, I was basically promoting Toastmasters for them. But there's nothing wrong with that. Your sticky notes, if you're doing like an IG live, I mean, I hear this a lot from people. I just feel so weird. I just end up looking at myself. Well, we don't want you looking at yourself, because when you look at yourself, your eyes are actually down. I want you to look in the camera. And I hope that you have felt like, oh my God, this woman makes great eye contact. Make a sticky note. Write the 3 things or however many things that you're going to share. No more than 3, by the way. Stick it on your face, on your phone, and then just, you know, go off and just rip. I mean, like, I still use stuff like this because it keeps me on that same road, folks. There's lots of little tricks. And it sounds like you're figuring out the little tricks that make it easier for you. It's almost like a little security blanket, like when we were little.
Yes.
Joanna, did you have something?
I don't know that I have a question. Like, lots of food for thought. I'm taking lots of notes. So my background is in teaching, and the thing that has really kept me honest, the specific tool that I use is one called Session Lab, because I have the world's biggest speech suitcase, and I try to put all of the clothes in there. Just one more thing that I could teach if I spoke really quickly. And so I'm brutal about timing out how long it's going to take and then pruning it back. I really appreciated that advice. I know I wrestle with the signature speech concept, because I agree with you that your audience may not get bored. I mean, there's a reason that we all rewatch Friends episodes or whatever the hell it is. But I get bored giving it. And I think that comes through.
So here's an idea for you for that, first off. And I didn't mean to cut you off.
Please.
Is that you use the same speech throughout a year, but you are, during that 12 months, you are slowly changing it. Like, you're trying this new story, seeing what the reaction is from the audience. If, you know, maybe the reaction is you get the laugh that you wanted. You didn't get the reaction that you wanted. Story might not work. Story needs to be recrafted. So what will end up happening is, by the end of 12 months, you're actually giving a new speech that people have never heard before, but you are slowly, of, like, if you think of like a hunk of clay that you're turning into a vase, and you are slowly, throughout the 12 months, you are then turning it into a water pitcher. Like it's completely something new. And so then you're still excited about it too. And I think also practicing the being fully present with your audience, reliving those stories, not just telling the story. We want to be fully present and put ourselves back into that moment, that story.
That's helpful. Thank you very much.
Did you have another part? Because I know I felt like I cut you off.
No. Not at
Okay.
all.
Anybody else?
Can we go back to the mountain to climb?
Yes.
And so a lot of people in the marketing bar can be sort of like newer to some of this. And so if they're like, how are you deciding like which, okay, so we can take me as marketing, right? Like I could go into any type of association, right? I mean, it's like, but you don't want to like, I wouldn't want to niche into like real estate and then be like pigeonholed and like I only talk to real estate people. But so one, like thinking about like what that is, and then if you like you just want to sort of like get your toes wet, how would you recommend so you may not have those contacts to go back to and say, hey, we spoke 2 years ago, right? Or you're looking to sort of start podcasting or whatever, you don't really have your signature. Like for some of the members who are like going to be watching this and like newer to this, like what would you recommend of like finding your mountain and then climbing it? Like what are those steps if you don't have that network necessarily?
Well, date an industry. You don't have to get married. Just like you said, I don't want to say that I only speak to real estate. But what would happen if you got really good at speaking at real estate? Those people who have seen you speak are probably talking over like, oh my God, like we had this amazing woman. Like you weren't in her breakout session? Man, you missed out. And it's like somebody in a completely different industry. So one, I would say dating, but once you start finding the industry that like I love these people, like these are just my people, you know, whether it's healthcare or engineers or real estate salespeople, like then you're also going to find like little hills because you know, like when you're climbing a mountain, there's all different pathways to get to the top. You never know, you might be like on the main path and be like, hey, this little turn over here on the right, I kind of want to go over here. And so let's just say it's a healthcare mountain. But you might take that right-hand turn because, hey, this is pediatrics, or these are home healthcare nurses. So you're just dating different people before you actually say, this is who I like. And there are so many. So thank you for reminding me, Kristen, about like, you may not have contacts in those industries, those associations, but find the association that's in your area. And I am sure that they've got meetings. You just go to their website and you start diving into and researching how often do they have meetings? Are they every month? Do they have just a couple of months that's posted on their website, or do they have the entire year? Because when you reach out to the person, this is what I prefer to do. I prefer to, instead of saying, hey, you should hire me, I want to open the door to the conversation, which is what I call it. So again, I'll just use Kristen as an example, and her and I do not know each other. And she's got some title that says something about head of education committee. So I'm just going to assume that she actually is the person who brings in the speakers. So I'm going to send her an email saying, hey, Kristen, I was on your website. I see that you have monthly meetings, and it looks like you had a conference last fall. What's your process for finding and booking speakers? That's the question. It opens the door to having the conversation because she'll tell you, she'll be like, oh, I don't book the speakers. Mary Jane does. Okay, let's send that email over to Mary Jane. And then from Mary Jane, she might be like, oh, we book out our entire 12 months or 10 months, like whatever it is that they have. Oh, we just book it like month to month. You're just asking what their process is. Oh, and now you're engaged in a conversation. I like to use this because it's not hire me. Oh my God. One of my pet peeves is when somebody on social says, hey, I'm looking for some speakers for my summit. You have no idea what the summit's about. And everybody that is responding is like, me, 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 me. That is like a pet peeve of mine, because what I write is, could you tell me a little bit more about your summit? And then I'll know if I'm a good fit.
Mhm.
Or let's have a conversation about your people, the conference goals. And like, I have like a lot of questions that I end up asking. Kristen will tell you, like, I asked her a lot of questions. You know, not before I said yes. I said yes. But then as we were approaching the date, it was just like, tell me about your people. Who's going to be there? You know, like, what are their needs? What are their stumbling blocks? Because I want to make sure that I show up and serve.
Thanks, Joanna.
Sorry, I cannot read.
That's what she has to run, but she appreciates.
I'm
And she'll be
teaching.
telling she's already
Yeah.
learned.
already learned. I'm teaching a class this evening for Boston University, so I have to bounce. But
Oh, good for you. I just wanted, there was something that I wanted to add when you were like, you know, like, I come from teaching. You're what I'm calling the college professor. And you want to become, because you said you want to build clients off of your speeches, you want to become the marketer speaker.
so it's interesting because because I do have to go. I've sort of done this where I started in teaching. I was an in-house marketer for 17 years. I now have my own consulting practice, and I've, through referrals, started teaching again at the college level. And it's really interesting looking in the closet and picking which hat to put on. And recognizing that certainly with a class, there is no selling from the stage,
Right.
because they are literally already paying you. So that discipline's super interesting because I can do both in a day. You have to really pick the hat.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Laurie-Ann. This was fantastic. Kristen,
And
thank
Joanne,
you
like,
once
feel
again.
free to reach out to me if you have
Oh,
any
I
other
will.
questions. Oh, I will. I love that. Like, she said that with certainty.
Yep, I've downloaded all the things. I'll be reaching out. Thank you very much.
You're
Take care.
welcome. You're welcome.
Bye.
For the remaining three, how can I help you? I've given you the in-demand signature speech, like, here's all the different parts. You know, now you know how to use the open the door, you know, connection calls, and just go out there and do the damn thing. You got to put the reps in. I was not this good in the beginning. No,
Yeah, and I've told you the asking for things. Like, I gave a talk last week in someone's group, and did I ask for anything in return? No.
But that's
And
okay.
now
You
I'm
can go
like,
back.
oh, Laurie-Ann, don't. I know.
You can go back.
I can.
Like, oh, hey, part of my process for speaking in your group, like, just ask them, ask them for the testimonial.
Yeah. No, I know. Yes.
Yeah. It's never too late.
Yeah.
And then I would literally have a checklist. Here's what I do pre, here's what I do during, and here's what I do afterwards. Just have the process so that you're not thinking, do I feel like asking for the testimonial?
Yeah.
It's just, you know, like, you have this templated email that you just kind of zhuzh up, you know, customize it, and then you send it. That's all. That's all, folks. And have fun when you're up here, because the more fun that you have, the more fun your audience is having. And for anybody who's watching this later, I mean, feel free to reach out to me. You could find me on LinkedIn. I don't know what information like you shared with people, Kristen, but you can find me on, you know, also on Instagram or Threads. But if you just go to speakandstandout.com, you know, my main website, you can just have the social media of your desire.
Yeah. And I'll put all the links down below the recording, so they'll have it.
Great.
But yes, this is wonderful. Bree, Amy, anything else before we wrap up?
Are you inspired to go and get booked?
Yeah.
Good. Amy, I detected a little hesitation in the head shake.
No, I definitely am inspired. I think where where I always struggle is more so with, like, when somebody does ask me and they ask me what the fees are, like, how I even, you know what I mean? I've done a couple of things for no fee at all. And I had my books there, which I sold, which was good. But
Here's what you ask them.
But it's, yeah.
What's your budget for speakers, plural?
Okay.
Because they might tell you. And, you know, again, like having a table in the front of the room, by the way, to sell your books.
Mm-hmm.
Front of the room. As long as there's a break afterwards. And the philosophy behind that is that people are going to come up to you and ask you questions. And the people who aren't coming up to ask you any questions, they're going to see like this little crowd. And they might not be sure, like, you know, are they up there to like get a book? Are they over there to ask her a question? But that's where FOMO comes in. It's like, what's going on up there? I got to go find out. So if you can have your table with your books in the front of the room, perfect. And that works out really well if there's a break right after you speak,
Okay.
even if it's 15 minutes. So you're asking, what's your budget for speakers? Because I always look at it like, hey, I'm already here. And so I'm thinking of like more in-person events. I'm already here. I can do a breakout session with you. And your breakout session can be live coaching on what you talked about previously. Doesn't have to be like some brand new speech. Okay. And so you find out from them, this is what I am more of a fan of, since you're not a professional speaker. And again, this used to be my life, where when somebody asked me like, hey, we want to bring you in to speak, it's like, here's my fee. Either like we negotiate and we figure out how we're going to match it, or we just move on. But now what I do is like, I'm speaking for no fee in so many different places because I'm building my audience. And I used to sell a lot of books at events also. So that sometimes could like so made up for the not being paid. You know,
Right.
upfront. So, I mean, like you can get paid on the front end, which is what getting paid to speak is, or you can make a shit ton of money on the back end.
Yeah, and I think I'm definitely more interested in building it on the back end.
Yeah, there's lots of ways. Definitely use those magic phrases. And last August, I did an entire month on selling from the stage. All different ways, just different key points that I wanted to make sure that my audience heard about.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Laurie-Ann. This is wonderful. We really appreciate your time.
Thank
You will
you.
be getting all the testimonials.
I had a great time. This was so wonderful. I was just so glad that I started to feel like myself, so that I could, like, all of Laurie-Ann could show up.
Us too. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Amy, lovely to have you join us live. Bree is always wonderful. But yeah, if there's nothing else, we'll wrap it up. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.